What's this?
Well. Ron Burgundy and the Channel 4 news team.
Hello, Wes Mantooth. Hello, Evening News Team.
Hey, nice clothes, gentlemen. I didn't know the Salvation Army was having a sale. Am I right? Look at these guys.
Hey! Where did you get those clothes? At the toilet store?
What are you doing on our station's turf, Burgundy? You're about to get a serious beatdown.
I will smash your face into a car windshield and then take your mother, Dorothy Mantooth, out for a nice seafood dinner and never call her again.
Dorothy Mantooth is a saint! You understand me? Dorothy Mantooth is a saint!
Hey, leave the mothers out of this, all right?
Level up your fun tune up. Your question's now begun. Tune up. I'll show you how it's done. Tune up, tune up, tune up, tune up, tune up. Tune up.
All right, everybody, welcome back to the Tabletop Tune-Up. Today we got a fun topic today, Ben.
I am looking forward to this one.
Yeah, we're talking about trash.
We're talking trash too.
Yeah, we are talking trash. We're talking about trash talking, folks.
Mark, help us out. What's trash talking?
Well, I got some Merriam-Webster's definition for you, bud.
All right, let's have it.
All right. It defines trash talk as disparaging, taunting, or boastful comments, especially between opponents trying to intimidate each other.
What about podcast hosts?
Well, yeah, I mean, are we opponents?
I don't know. Just taking that as read. All right, go on.
So that's kind of what we think about trash talk. We think about it in sports. I'm a, you know me, 90s basketball fan. I loved NBA basketball. I grew up just loving that 90s trash talk in the basketball. Guys like, we had Gary Payton on our team. That guy was just a dumpster fire of trash talk. And up and down the court. I mean, you guys got like Reggie Miller, Charles Barkley.
Is this your trash talk Hall of Fame for the NBA?
Oh my gosh. Oh, well, Gary Payton's got to be in there for sure. These guys, I mean, they're legendary stories of their talk. One of my favorite, Larry Bird, Larry Legend.
Yep.
Going down the court, Christmas Day game against the Pacers. He tells Chuck Pearson before the game that he had a Christmas present ready for him.
Oh, no.
And so Pearson's on the bench. Bird hits a three-pointer, turns to Pearson. The ball hasn't even gone in yet. Swoosh. And he turns around and goes, "Merry effing Christmas."
Oh.
And you know that, like, that's just got to hurt.
Yeah. Look, friends, I've actually done this a couple of times since I saw we were going to do this topic. I went out to YouTube. You can find people talking about what a trash talker Bird was. And I think there's some other examples too.
So in sports, they used to use this to kind of get in people's heads. You wanted to get an edge over your opponent, and it would distract them from their game plan. It would kind of take them out of their game, that rattled them. And you can kind of carry some of this over to RPGs. You can carry it over RPGs, but is it the best way? So we're going to be talking about how to use trash talk and do it so responsibly. So, because we're all about being responsible here.
Yeah, that's right. Now, Mark, what's fascinating about this parallel with the NBA is that, of course, we're kind of used to GMs, DMs, and their players being in a somewhat adversarial relationship because, of course, we're running all the bad guys. We're posing all these challenges and things like that. Are we really in an adversarial relationship with our players, though?
Not really, but the illusion is kind of fun, right? And we're kind of playing with that idea.
Yeah, I think it certainly adds a little psychological component to the challenges that are presented in the game. If you're a player, having your GM kind of make you feel it a little bit can be fun.
But here's the thing, though. Even in like the NBA, Ben, I mean, they were opponents on the court, but some of these guys were friends. Yeah. And they still enjoyed talking trash to each other.
Yeah, I think that's really great as a way to frame this, to make sure you can stay friends after the game is over. You got to set some ground rules. So let's establish some essential rules so that you can be friends with your players and you'll have a great time.
Gary Payton may not have had any rules, but we probably should.
No, yeah, that's right. Good. That's right. Okay, so number 1, don't make it personal. We're not talking about each other's characteristics, the things that annoy us about our roommates. People got a bad haircut.
Leave Dorothy Mantooth out of this, Ben.
That's right. Nobody's talking about your mom. So don't make it personal. This is really not intended to get a rise out of people.
Yeah.
Number 2, respect your players. This is meant to be fun, should foster camaraderie, not resentment. Really, it's not going to be about anything that's happening outside the game. I feel like that could be a version of number 2, but really, you can tell if somebody respects you, appreciates you by the kind of trash talk that they give you, right? Usually they'll be playing lightly.
Yeah, what do they say about like roasts? They always say that you only roast the ones you love.
Yeah, that's a kind of a good example, right? Like when people do roasts, it's their friends they'll invite.
Yeah.
Okay, so thirdly, do not ever retaliate out of character. If somebody gets the best of you as a GM, accept it gracefully, take it on the chin. If they talk some trash and then roll a crit against your favorite big, bad, evil guy, then you know what? The dice decreed. They get their moment in the sun and let them have it.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, go easy on the noobs. If you've got an established group or somebody that maybe you don't know very well, let them ease into it. Like give them time. Don't go full throttle. Don't turn up the temperature too fast. Choose your favorite metaphor here, but the idea is they need to kind of have time to read the room and understand where the boundaries are.
Yeah, I mean, we're calling them noobs. So, I mean, is that insult enough right there?
Yeah, that's a good place to start. And then you can get more elaborate as things go on. Number 5, know your audience. And what was interesting, Mark and I were talking about how knowing your audience is both kind of on the low side and the high side. You might have an audience of people who are very sensitive, or maybe there's 1 or 2, but you just need one person who's not going to really enjoy this. And it's not something you should then probably do much of.
Yeah.
But you can also have people, I think we have friends like this, or we all know somebody who, you throw something at them and it's like a 5 and they come back at you with a 10 and you're like, 10 was kind of outside the bounds of this group. We did not want this
I know
guy
people who
to be
throw
going,
11s and 12s, man.
Yeah. So people that maybe are going to make it a little too real or maybe not respect some of these rules we talked about. So setting ground rules is super important. All right. You got it. You know the rules. It's time to talk some trash.
All right, you good for nothing, useless ingrates. We're going to talk first about some out-of-game trash talk.
Didn't we just get done saying we weren't going to talk trash out of game?
Wait, did we say that?
Well, we said don't make it personal and respect your players, so it wasn't about them as such.
We're talking out of game here. We're going to be talking out of game trash talk because there's 2 parts. We got some in-game trash talk, but we also have some out-of-game trash talk. Ben, I'm going to treat Shen like the brown belt he is in our next game session. I'm going to slap him so hard, he's going to be checking Redfin for listings in the Shadow Realm.
How dare you, sir?
Now, if I drop that in our Discord, our public group Discord, maybe 3 or 4 days before a game session, how's that making you feel?
Well, first of all, I'm going to start planning what I'm going to do to you. So, with Shen in this game, how he's going to navigate that next encounter. So I'm going to get probably a little engaged. I'm also going to be thinking about some trash talk to throw back at you. Yeah.
And one thing about this too is like, I wouldn't really call this intimidation. It's fun. It's light. It's about engagement. I got maybe 3-4 days before our next game session. I got to get you guys kind of excited. We're engaging each other.
Conversely, I could be talking trash to my GM. So Mark, I could be saying things like, hey, you know that boss? I think they're about to get demoted.
Come on, man.
I should do better than that?
Come on, son.
Wow. I did say this one thing in our Discord. You had a boss called the Widow, and we were in a battle. And I said, Mark, next session, I'm going to reunite that widow with her husband.
That was, you know what? I'll tell you what I felt like when I read that. First of all, I was laughing because it was a good burn. But man, I was excited for next session.
Yeah.
I was getting in my mind. I was getting kind of psyched up. It got me motivated as a GM. You got the GM excited, which means I'm going to put a little bit more energy into that next session. You know what? These are just tools that players can also use to get some engagement out of the GM. It's not always just about GMs trying to get engagement out of players. Sometimes players need to get your GM motivated.
Yeah.
But there's another side effect that this does. There might be some players in your group that have forgotten that we're going to be playing in a couple of days.
Yeah, and you could do something boring, like be like, hey guys, we're playing in a couple days. Or you could do this.
Yeah, or you could do this. So now everybody's excited and they're laughing and they're having a good time. And they know they're going to be playing in three or 4 days. So that's an example of some like out of game trash talk that you can engage in between sessions every week. And it's a lot of fun.
Let's talk about in-game trash talk. We've talked about out-of-game trash talk. When you're playing the game itself, let's talk about what kind of trash you're going to talk in that case. So as a GM, this is going to be an amazing way for you to heighten the drama, but you got to use it sparingly. You got to use it thoughtfully. You want to bring energy to the table, but you don't want to make a whole side trip into everybody talking back and forth about that.
Let me give you an example, Ben, real quick, of in-game trash talk and how we kind of utilize this. We'll go into a little bit more depth about like when's the right time to use it. But an example might be, I have your character, your Shen.
The monk, yes.
I got you on the ropes, man. I see you can only maybe take a few more hits, maybe 2 or 3 more hits. The stakes are getting higher. They haven't quite reached the full height. But I lean across the table and I say, I've been thinking about redecorating this room with Shen's guts. And then I roll the dice.
Okay.
This does a few things, right?
All right.
Number one, it's grabbing the room's attention. If there's anybody not paying attention, they're certainly paying attention now, right?
I feel like that's kind of like Babe Ruth calling that home run. We'll talk about that more in a sec, but yeah, it's definitely an attention getter. It's
an attention getter, and everybody's leaning in now because they want to see, well, if I could back that up. Now it's challenging you. It's challenging the other players around the table. Hey, you guys got to step up your game. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna have my way with Shen here. And
when the outcome is in doubt, and somebody starts trash talking, that really does give you this vibe of oh, they've got confidence. They think they're going to win.
If I were to say something like that, are you motivated just a little bit more?
Well, of course. I'm trying to figure out how I can put the lie to that calumny that you've just issued.
Yeah, and I also might be sensing too, maybe the battle is, maybe it's not going their way. Maybe it's not going the player's way. And I need to get them to kind of refocus, recenter. And by giving a little trash talk, I've now got them thinking about their next move and how they're going to one-up me. I need to get that out of them.
There's some really interesting sleight of hand here that we're doing psychologically, right? Where we're essentially, as a GM, you're managing people's attention with this spicy talk through the game. And that's a really interesting thing to think about. How do I keep my players engaged? We've talked about lots of ways to keep players engaged. And this is one of those tools in your toolbox.
And there's another thing too. There were people when they would trash talk Michael Jordan back in the day.
Oh, he took it personally.
He took it very personally. And people would say, what are you doing, dude? Do not talk to him. Do not open your mouth. Do not open your mouth on that guy. Because next thing you know, he's going to have 40 points in the second half of the game.
Yeah.
Because somebody just said something stupid to him. So trash talk can motivate, but not everybody. So know your audience. The goal of trash talk within the game, in sports, it's to gain that psychological advantage. In RPGs, it's about creating a psychological boost for the table. You're trying to fuel the excitement. You're trying to get that investment out of your players. And it's also kind of, you see more high fives and stuff. So you're building that bond around the table. Everybody's having a good time. So when players are responding with clever retorts or turn the tide in the game, they win. And as a GM, your goal isn't to win a verbal sparring match. That's not really what you're doing.
That's an important note.
You're trying to bring out the best in that player and those players. And if you succeed, you win. The players win. The table wins.
And I got to say, there are fewer victories sweeter than the one where you shut up that fool villain's mouth.
You're right. It's a lot of fun. And that's where the high fives go around.
That's right.
You'll always see those at the table.
Okay, some closing thoughts.
Yeah. For you human version of participation trophies that you are.
And you're trash talking the audience. That's a dangerous game, man. We'll see if they trash talk us back in the comments. That could be fun. We'll find out.
That could be painful. What do we do, Ben?
That'll be in public.
What hath we wrought?
Okay, here's some final tips. First of all, celebrate the players' victories. If a player lands a killer blow after you talk trash, again, take that on the chin. Let them bask in that glory. Make a big show of being humiliated about it, even.
100%. Yeah. Enjoy it.
That's a good moment for you as a GM, that you've been able to create that emotional high. Secondly, choose your moments. It's a funny thing about salt, Mark. A little of it's good. Too much of it ruins whatever you've put it on.
As a person from Minnesota, Ben.
What?
They salt the hell out of all their food here.
Yeah. The point is, this is the seasoning. It's not the dish. So be thoughtful about that. Avoid trash talk during critical moments too, right? That's kind of a variation on this theme. If you're about to kill a player character and the dice are going to, drop their last hit point, like, don't start talking trash then. That player's emotions are already in a real moment, and you don't want to make it worse for them if they're feeling at all a little traumatized.
We had just talked earlier about how we're using trash talk to build up the excitement and build up that build up to the next level. Well, if they're already there, trust me, they're like one hit away from being taken out. You don't need to take it any further. It's already there.
That's right. So keep in mind the goal of this thing. And then this is kind of the test, is foster fun with this stuff, not friction, right? If people are not having fun, if there's friction, trash talk stops. You want to make sure your banter is building people up and engaging them more in the game, not creating tension and discord in your group.
I'm just hoping to hear more of this at the table, to be honest. I love it. And I'm hoping that people take some of these tips and let us know.
You know what's funny though? I think they do tell those stories later, when they say, oh yeah, I got that zinger in on the villain. Here's what I said. And then this is what I did. And then, the players will tell those stories. Mm-hmm. So I think as the GM, you want to have your version of that. But as we said in so many other places, remember that you're there to serve the players' heroes' journeys, right? You don't necessarily want to overshadow the players, even with your villains. So try to give them the openings and engage them in ways that let them know that it's okay for them to talk trash too.
Awesome. Well, Ben, that was a lot of fun. Let's get into some tune-ups. All right. Chartum wrote into us. He said, hey, how to handle it when a fellow player gets secretive with what they are doing and you feel kind of cut out from the rest of the group. Now, this is the player-to-player interaction. Somebody's being a little secretive, maybe side notes. What are your thoughts on this, Ben?
Yeah, I think there's interesting player-to-player dynamics. There's interesting player-to-GM dynamics. Obviously, with player-to-GM, that's something that, players may have interesting things about their characters they want to unfold over time. They want to work with the GM on that, and that's fine. I think there's a kind of a challenging situation that you can be in, though. And I'm sure you've experienced this. I've experienced this where if you're coming into a group that's already well established and there's a lot of people there that know each other and they've got the shared vibe and they all kind of are on the same wavelength and you're maybe not there yet, if they don't basically take steps to include you, that's a good moment for you to maybe have a side chat with the GM and be like, hey, am I missing something here? Or do you guys have fun with me joining you?
Yeah.
Mark, I think one of the first things about any group that makes it successful, we talk about what makes a game like these kinds of RPGs successful. It's not the system. It's not how much character backstory you put up. It's not how good your maps and stuff were or how pretty your dice are. It's really player chemistry. This is fundamentally a social exercise.
And how pretty your dice are.
Yeah,
that could be part of it. No, but you're right, Ben. It's the players and it's that chemistry you want to have. But I will say this, if he wrote us this, let's just assume that it is maybe something that's been going on for a little bit longer because there's going to be side chats between players and GMs. Mm-hmm. A good amount of that could happen in between sessions. You don't necessarily need to do a lot of it, but there will be sidebars. Sometimes it's warranted. There's a lot of times where GMs want to have that single character knowledge so that they can reveal it to the party in a way that makes sense to their character, through the lens of their character.
Yeah, that's a nice point.
Don't be overly sensitive to those secretive talks, though, because you might be involved with one of those at some point, too.
Also, Mark, think about all the times we've talked about, as a GM, what you're doing to manage players with sidebar conversations, negotiating item situations, trying to do things to harmonize the group and lots of stuff like that. All of that, it's all stuff that you don't necessarily want to invite a whole lot of transparency around because it could be something that a individual player is uncomfortable with, or it could be something that you're just trying to manage with some degree of decorum and protecting people's feelings. So, I think a lot depends on, is this the players being cliquish, or is this the GM doing the GM's job of managing the group? And if the players are being cliquish, then maybe talk to the GM and let him manage the group for you, and then not worry about it after that.
I will say I've seen situations, Ben, where a player might be secretive. Maybe it's part of their character. Maybe they're playing a rogue. Maybe they're stealing from the party, which is like another problem altogether, really. And that kind of secretive can kind of get on people where they're not revealing information that has been the GM has given for whatever reason. So I've seen players abuse that secretiveness, and that can be a problem. So keep your eyes open as a GM. Recognize when a player might be using that to kind of get an edge over the other players. We're not looking at getting edges over people, right?
Yeah. I mean, remember that because this is a social game, the behaviors you need to be looking for are the ones that are pro-social, and the ones that are anti-social are the ones that you want to address early and often.
Well, I think we kind of wrapped up that tune-up. We got some stuff coming down the pipe, though, don't we? What do we got in the future here?
We are going to talk about the pulp genre soon.
I really want to pick your brain on that.
I think it's really underrepresented in games too. There's a handful of games that do this, but I think we're going to find that some of our favorite stories, some of our very, very favorite stories have come out of that genre.
I know one I'm looking forward to is we're talking about working the odds, how to move the odds in your favor. Since dice, the dice is the third character. That's the third player in our game. We want to figure out how can we maneuver the odds to work in our benefits. So we got some good stuff.
The ancient Romans once said that you can't control fate, but you can charm her, maybe.
Wow. Don't ever do that again, Ben.
I'll have to go find that. But that was Fortuna,
awesome.
Right?
That is awesome. All right, you guys. We appreciate you listeners, and as much fun as we had talking trash with you, we hope that you talk some trash back to us as well.
Please talk trash to us in public, or if you'd like to talk trash to us at our Gmail address, tabletoptuneup@gmail.com. We'd love to hear that. We'd love to hear your tune-up suggestions. Send us questions or ideas about things that you'd like to see some variations, some brainstorming around. And we'd love to hear about ideas for world building or player management or issues you're running into at the table.
Enjoy this music track. Honestly, this is one of the best ones. I love this one.
Really?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. All right.
Enjoy it.
Well, friends, until we meet again, talk some trash and keep those dice rolling.
Quest has now begun. Tune up, we'll show you how it's done. Tune up, tune up, tune up, tune up, tune up. Tune up, tune up. Ooh. Your RPG's dragging, lost in the same old scene, but these two roll up, bringing power unforeseen. No tired tropes, no predictable line. They craft realms with a depth that'll blow your mind. Legends in the game, call them sages of the board. When they're setting the scene, you're never ignored. Roll the dice, spin the fate, watch it unfold. They're turning the mundane into stories of gold. One's a storyteller, words so rich and refined. The other's the rule keeper, precise on the grind. Together they're a force, a perfectly balanced scheme. Every session they run feels like a living dream. Heroes rise, villains plot, epic battles unite. With twists and turns that last deep into the night. They're the kings of narrative, masters of the art, guiding each game from the spark to the dark. So if your game's feeling flat, lost and unfixed, these two will rebuild it with the slickest tricks. Call them up when your world's ready to fall. They'll turn it to greatness, the best game of all. They'll get you tuned up. It's time for your tune up. Your game needs some tune up. Come get your tune up. 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 Ooh. quest has now begun. Tune up, have a stew.